Hi everyone, the clip you're about to watch was streamed live on Twitch. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing to this channel and stop by the Twitch. I stream almost every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so come say hi and let's hang out. Enjoy the clip. I just want to very quickly create two menus. Let's imagine I have a pause menu, for example, or even just a HUD, and we want to switch between the two whenever we pause the game. So, just gonna set up our canvas over here super quickly. So how do we change between these two smoothly? So in a smooth way, but also in a way that doesn't get in your way. First, I'm going to create a simple menu manager. And then I'm going to scripts. I'm going to create a menu manager script. Now, before we even start managing menus, we need some sort of prompt for when we want to change these menus, right? So in this case, if you're trying to pause, then we want some sort of game manager, for example. So I'm going to go ahead and also create a game manager. Open up Visual Studio, and there we go. So a very simple prompt to pause, and I'm going to say that I want to pause whenever I press the P key, for example. So if input.getKeyDown, instead of keycode escape, I'm going to say keycode.p. There we go. And in this case, we want to pause. Now, the simplest way would be to have some sort of public game object pause menu, and then a public game object, not game manager, game object, player HUD, right? And then you pause these depending on if you are pausing or not, right? So let's first keep track of whether we're pausing or not. And this is not the main goal of the tutorial, so I'm going to very quickly go through this. So is pause, we want to start as false. Whenever we press P, is paused is now flipped. So we flip the is paused. Okay, and then depending on the value of is paused, we do something. So for example, pause menu, you'd want to set this active depending on the is paused value. And then the player HUD, we want to set active based on the contrary of the is paused value. Okay, so if is paused is true, then the pause menu is going to be active and the player HUD is going to be inactive, right? But if you have about, I don't know, 10 menus, do you want to create references to all of them whenever you want to change them? That just doesn't feel right to me, right? And that's why I started to use menu managers, just so I don't have to make references to menus every single time I want to change to one. Okay? But this could completely work if you're looking for something simple. Yes, but we're going to go with another approach. Here, we want to do let our menu manager handle menu management. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Let's go back, or rather, I can access it right from here. Assets, scripts, menu manager. And I'm just going to put this in a namespace. Namespace, menu manager tutorial. There we go. So what does this menu manager need to know in order to make our life easier whenever we want to change menus? Well, if I'm in the game manager, I would like to simply say, hey, menu manager, please change to a menu. And then what menu? Well, we could use the menu name as a prompt, or even use the actual menu. Okay, that is also acceptable. Although that still comes to the same problem that we had before. You would need a reference to said menu, which sometimes you don't really want. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. But I specifically like this approach over here. Now, I'm usually not a fan of using strings as parameters because you can get some mistakes with that, especially when you're trying to find things through those strings. You can make a typo and then it's not going to work. But I feel like for the sake of convenience, in this case, it's worth it. So how do we do this? How do we do this change to menu function? Well, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these. And I already know that I want to have a public void change to menu, change to menu, and it's going to take in a string with the menu name, right? So first, I need some way of converting this string to a menu, right? Now, there's a bunch of questions here. What should a menu be? And how can we find it through its name, right? So in this case, you could do something along the lines of GameObject.find, but I particularly hate that. right? Because if you have a game object called player HUD, this could both be a menu as well as some sort of manager that just has a script, right? Sometimes things like that happen. And also I don't like to use GameObject.find in general because it's very slow. But besides the point, here we then need to kind of contain our results a little bit, which you can do with an array or a list. Okay, in this case we're going to use arrays. Now, what should this array be of? In this case, I'm going to just do an array of game objects for now. Okay, so for example, serialized field, private game object, like so. All right, or menus. Okay, and now if I go over to Unity, I could just place all my menus in this menu manager. So player HUD and pause menu canvas, like so. With that said, we can now restrict our search to simply this menus array. Okay, using link, this becomes even easier, right? I could just say var target menu equals menus dot where, and this you need to be using system.link, very useful library, where whatever menu has the same name as menu name. Okay, so this is the delegate. It goes through all the menus in the menus array. Okay, and then for each menu, it checks if the menu has the same name as our menu name. Okay, that's going to be our target menu. Now here we need to say dot to first or default, because where returns an array or an enumerable, because you could have multiple objects that respect this condition, right? In this case, we don't want that, and so that's why we do first or default. We just want the first one that it finds. Okay, and in that case, we want that target menu to set active true. Okay. Not only that, but we also want to disable the one that is before, but we'll take care of that in a second. So for example, here I could say find object of type menu manager script dot change to menu, like so, and I could say that I want to change to my pause menu canvas. Now this depends a lot on what we were doing, right? It depends on what is the value of is paused, right? So is paused. If it is paused, then we want to change to the pause menu canvas. If not, then we want to change to the player HUD canvas. Something along these lines. Okay. Now, like I mentioned before, we told a menu to activate itself, but I never told the one before to deactivate itself. So we're going to get a bit of a mixture of menus here. We'll fix that in a second. Right. So if I go in ahead and press escape, or sorry, P. We should get that menu, but we're not. Did I do a typo? Okay, so our function is not being called. Where's our game manager? Oh, I didn't put a game manager in the scene. That's my bad. Game manager, game manager, game manager. There we go. Now everything should work fine. My bad. Okay, so P, and there we go. We get the pause menu, but it's a bit of a jumbled mess, right? So we now need to disable the HUD when we activate the pause menu. Meaning, once again, that we want to dump all of this extra work onto the menu manager script. We don't want the game manager to have to do anything more than just this. Okay, so the menu manager should now keep track of what our current menu is, right? So private game object, current menu. Okay, and to begin with, we can just say that the current menu is equal to the first one in the list. Right? You could also have another field for like the default menu that you want to change to whenever this is the case. Okay? But in this case, then we just want to say that hello, if the current menu does not equal null, then we want to set this active to false. Okay? So if there is a current menu, then we want to set it active to be false. Okay, and that should disable the last menu that there was. Okay, and we should now get a changeable menu. So P, pause menu, P again, and now we get a HUD there. Why? Because we never set the current menu to be the new menu, to be this target menu. Okay, so current menu equals now target menu once we're done with it. Okay. And boom. Okay. So now whenever I press P, it just changes between the two, right? And you can do this with as many menus as you want. Okay. All right. So now, I also want to make this a bit more accessible. So I'm just going to say public, static, menu manager, instance, all of this stuff. Okay. The standard singleton. Okay. Awake instance equals this, just so that we don't have to find object of type every single time. And you can just say menu manager script dot instance dot change to menu, and that's it. Okay. So now your game manager or whatever script you're trying to use the menu manager from can be a lot cleaner. Okay. Now this is kind of just the beginning of this tutorial. We can go much farther than this, and this should still all work fine. There we go. We can go much farther than this. But for the purposes of a simple menu manager, that is technically all we need to do. Okay, just notice that. There we go. That's a bit better. Maybe. Sure. Okay. Because this is just to activate and deactivate a menu. But what if you want some sort of animator, right? In that case, then you need something a bit more. A bit more of something, rather. Just because, let's say a very simple animator here. Okay, so animator. And we're going to do art. So inside of art, we're just going to do a new folder for animations. Animations. UI. Okay, and we're just going to create a new animator here, and just going to call this on enter. And it's just going to be a generic animator, generic menu animator. Okay, and this is just going to use what is called a canvas group. Okay, over here rather. So a canvas group allows you to do very simple operations to the whole canvas. All right. So if I change the alpha of the canvas group to 0, then all of the objects inside get their alpha turned down to 0. Okay. Just a very simple thing like that. And we can use this to make very simple animations. So for example, if you want a menu that just has a simple fade whenever it's turned on, then we can have a non-enter that starts at 0. And after 0.2 seconds, it goes up to 1. Okay, so very, very simple opening to a menu. All right. Then we need 3 states over here, right? We need an on enter for when the menu is first activated, an idle for while the menu is active, and then an exit for when you want to turn off the menu. Okay, and the exit is the tricky part here. Let's see why. So I'm going to go ahead and create an idle like so, and also an on exit. Okay, so idle, very simple. Idle just needs to grab this final bit of the on enter and keep it there. Obviously, you could add your own flair if you want the menu to move a bit. In this case, we're going to ignore that bit. And then on exit is just going to be the opposite of this. So I'm just going to do the reverse like so. Okay. So now it starts at full alpha and then it goes down. Okay. If we go over to the animator, now I need to set this up. Right, and once again, this is not really the point of this tutorial, so I'm just going to set this up very quickly. If we want to go from on enter to idle right away, so after idle has finished playing, we go to, or rather, after on enter has finished playing, we go to idle, right? And then on exit, we want to trigger it from the script, so we're going to leave it alone for now. Okay. Okay. With that said, things now become a bit different because right now we're just setting the current menu to be active false, which we don't want. We want it to be set active false once on exit has played. Okay, so we need to wait a little bit here. Now let me just make sure that my on enter and on exit don't loop. All right, that's very important here. Okay, the only thing you want looping is the idle in this case. Okay, so in this case, we now just need to change what we wrote a little bit. Okay, so first of all, we no longer want an array of game objects. We want an array of animators, just because it's much easier to call that way. Because of that, our current menu also needs to be an animator. Okay, and now instead of set active to false straight away, we just want to play on exit. Okay, and then instead of just setting active true, well, in this case we can just set active to true, but it's also okay to just say target menu dot play on enter. And now if I give that exact same animator to the pause menu canvas, so I need a canvas group for this to work. There we go. Let's just give it the generic menu. All right. And now if I press P, the variable, oh, right, so now I need to repopulate my menu manager. That's my bad there. There we go. And if we try that again, press P, and now you have a fade between the two. And this is just, you know, this fade can be technically whatever you want, right? It doesn't matter. Okay, you could have things sliding out of the screen. You could have things popping in, things fading, just like I have. You can do whatever you want. That's the whole point of this. Okay. And there we go. Now, if you need your menus to be inactive for whatever reason, maybe some of your conditions depend on the menus being inactive, then you need to add a little something to this, because as you can see, the menus are still active in this case. And in case that is what you need, I'm going to show you a very simple method of how you can do that. So there is actually a way of knowing when methods start, when animations start and when they finish and when they are running. And those are called animation behaviors. If I go over to my animator and I select my player HUD canvas, if I click on exit, there is a little button over here called add behavior. All right. Now I'm just going to say on exit behavior, and it's going to be a new script, create and add. I'm going to wait for it to compile. Open it up. And as you can see, you have a bunch of functions here that are all commented out, and then you can uncomment whichever ones you want to use. So as you can see, we have an on-state enter, update, and exit. Okay, so in this case, we want to do something once this state exits. Okay, so I'm going to uncomment that. And in this case, I just want to say that I want my animator.gameObject to be set active to false. And that's all I need. Okay, that's all I need. Now, whenever we finish this this state, it's going to turn off the menu. Now, I don't think this by itself works. I think we need to actually make it exit of the state, and then it's going to work. But we can check. We can double check and see if I'm right or wrong. So if I press P, activates, but the other one doesn't deactivate. Okay, so we do need, oh, wait. Oh, interesting. No, so we do need to deactivate first. Okay, so make transition to exit, and you could make this transition to whatever you want, I believe. Exit is just easier. So P, okay, and there we go. So player HUD is now deactivated. Okay, and things are deactivated as they should. Now, like I said, and like I demonstrated earlier, you don't exactly need this. Okay, you don't entirely need this, but it is a little fishy. It is a little, it's a bit of a gamble to leave all of your menus active, because if then any animations go wrong, then you could potentially have two animators on top of each other. So this is a bit more safe. This guarantees that you only have the current menu active, okay? And doesn't matter if the animations go wrong, there's only one menu on the screen. Okay? So that's all you need for a menu manager, a very simple menu manager, and you can make whatever animations you want. And obviously you could add more stuff to this, a lot more stuff, but this is the basic stuff. There you go.